All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this session where we're going to talk about upgrading your .NET applications. Well, first, very quickly about me, my name is Olia Gavrysh. I have been product manager at Microsoft for about 6 years right now. Before that, I was a .NET developer for my entire life. And I'm working on .NET modernization. I'm also PM for desktop.NET stack. I'm working on ways how users can easily attach to Azure and how they can make their .NET applications modern, fast, performant, and so on. So there are different ways how you can upgrade your applications, and the big one, and the one that will give you so many free benefits, is upgrading your .NET, the platform that your application is targeting, to the latest version. And today I'm going to tell you everything about why it's good, why you might want to do that, and how can you do that. You can also upgrade your mobile applications if they're built on Xamarin.Forms. There is a new offering from Microsoft called .NET MAUI. We'll talk about that. And you can upgrade your Azure functions. You can upgrade UWP to WinUI 3. You also can upgrade some features of your project, such as upgrading file to the latest SDK style project, upgrading from on-prem to Azure, and so on. So let's begin with upgrading to the latest .NET. And before jumping into that, I want to clarify something, because I still receive questions from people like, there are so many different versions of .NET. There's .NET Framework, .NET Core. For Xamarin, there's Mono. There's also .NET Standard. Like, what should I use? How do they relate to each other? Why there are so many? Yeah, that's a very valid question. And as you probably know, .NET Framework existed for many, many years. That was the first platform that we created, and it was a great and reliable, mature platform for many years. But as technology progresses, as modern world gives us more and more requirements for modern software, that framework could no longer fit all the modern needs of software applications. And that's why 6, 7 years ago, we created .NET Core. And we built it specifically to be great for web native cloud applications. And that framework was much, much faster. It was we did complete re-architecture of our APIs, of the platform, and it's great. So for some time, we had .NET Framework, and we had .NET Core, and we thought that .NET Core would be web offering, whether .NET Framework would be for everything else. As time passed by, as we received the feedback, we realized .NET Core is the way going forward. And that is much, much better. It allows us to iterate faster, introduce improvements much, much faster. So then based on .NET Core, we got all the best things from .NET Framework, Mono Xamarin, and so on, and we created one platform called .NET. We started with the version .NET 5, and many people thought that's because we wanted to confuse you guys, but actually that was because 5 is greater than .NET Framework 4.8, .NET Core 3.1, so that's the larger number of all existing .NET frameworks. So we want to emphasize that's the latest .NET. We simplified, no additions, just .NET, and that is the version of .NET that you should be using to build your applications. It's cross-platform, it allows flexible deployments, it has unparalleled performance, and it's much, much better in so many different ways. We keep improving .NET, so all our effort, all our changes goes there. We're not changing .NET Framework, not changing .NET Core, so nothing is happening there. It's still available for you, so if you have your applications, they can still run on those platforms, but all the new changes and improvements, they go specifically to .NET. And you probably noticed there is .NET Standard standing in the shade. They're still there. Why is that? Well, .NET Standard, it's not a framework. It's a protocol, and we created it for compatibility. So when we had that situation, when we had .NET Framework and .NET Core, if you, for example, were building your libraries and you wanted your libraries to be used from both Framework and Core, you could target .NET Standard. And .NET Standard ensured that the implementations of the APIs that you're using are exist in .NET Framework and .NET Core. So if you target .NET Standard, your code is compatible with everything else. Now, moving forward, we will have just .NET, and .NET Standard is no longer needed. But if you still have some applications that are targeting .NET Framework, and you want compatibility between those framework and latest .NET apps, then you can still use .NET Standard. What is else new? We switched to scheduled releases. We received the feedback that it's very hard for you to plan your upgrades when you don't know when we are going to release the next .NET version. And before, we just released it when we were ready, which was never, but at some point we had to, and it was very chaotic. So now we're going to release new .NET every November, and every other release will be long-term support, meaning that we support it for 3 years. And every other release, we will just innovate and let you use the latest APIs, the latest features that we have. So it's up to you how you want to upgrade. You can upgrade just once every 3 years and switch from long-term to long-term. You can upgrade every year and get the latest features that we developed, or you can even upgrade with previews. We are releasing previews almost every month to let you have access to the latest things that we are working on currently and provide us feedback. Right now, we are on .NET 7. We have released it in November 2022, and very soon .NET 8 is coming. And .NET 8 will be another long-term support. Will be supported for 3 years, so I highly recommend upgrading to .NET 8. Now, why would you want to upgrade? Well, there are many, many reasons, and my favorite one is it's super performant. I'm gonna just quickly talk about everything and then deep dive to certain things that really stand out. So it's modern and fast moving. It is cross-platform, except WinForms and WPF. It's open source. You can write much simpler code with the latest C#. It has native support for ARM64. This platform was specifically built for microservices and cloud-native apps. So for those purposes, it's much, much better than .NET Framework. It also has rich ecosystem, and we are making improvements in every area. ASP.NET, WinForms, WPF, Entity Framework, in every single area, there is a team working on adding improvements in the latest versions. And the most important thing, .NET is the platform going forward. As I mentioned, all the changes go only to .NET. So about performance improvements. There is a huge gap in performance between .NET Framework and .NET Core. There is a picture of, we actually had a cake in 2016 where we achieved 2,300% gap in RPS between Framework and Core. That was like a huge thing back then. But even since then, we keep improving performance. And you can see that from .NET to .NET, performance RPS percentage gain still is increasing. For ASP.NET Core, here in the picture, you can see gain compared to Core 3.1. So in .NET 5, 6, 7, and even in .NET 8, we're still growing in this area. And that's not a surprise because we are working a lot on this area. And here on the graph, you can see the number of PRs that were specifically dedicated for performance improvements. For .NET 7, we got over 1,000 PRs just for perf. And my coworker, Steven Todd, is posting performance improvements in .NET X every year. So you can see .NET Core 1.0, 2, 3, .NET 5, .NET 6. For .NET 7, his article was, I think, more than 250 pages. So he goes in all the details of what we have done. And yeah, to summarize it for you, it's really, really fast. The latest .NET is the fastest. Now, if you're curious how .NET compares to other offerings on the market, ASP.NET Core is 11 times faster than Node.js, also faster than Java Servlet. We made improvements in Entity Framework, and we added distribution transactions, mapping to JSON columns for SQL, many others. That's in .NET 7. And we made .NET 7 4 times faster than .NET 6. We also added performance specifically for WinForms. We changed the way how we redraw controls. And you can see the comparison of exactly the same application, targeting .NET Framework and targeting .NET 7. So as we made improvements, we have upgraded our own applications. And in .NET 6, that was a long-term support. First was .NET 5, regular, then .NET 6, long-term. That's where we upgraded all our apps. And you can see here, Microsoft Teams, Azure Active Directory, Microsoft Graphs, they all got a huge CPU decrease and operational cost decrease, and app efficiency grew significantly. So we were very happy with the result. That's why I'm recommending you to also upgrade. Now, what else is great? I know you guys love C# if you're .NET developers. So C# 11 introduced lots and lots of code simplifications. And there's even more improvements in C# 12. So do not miss the talk of Matt Torgensen. What's next in C#? It's going to be tomorrow in room 11. So definitely check it out. We've made improvements to .NET REST APIs. So they're minimal. You can see just 3 lines of code. They are powerful. We have added new features like map group API to easily scaffold out full REST API in the most minimal lines of code. And we have received feedback from developers and made significant improvements, simplification of auth. So you can see between .NET 6 and .NET 7, now it's much, much easier, basically 1 line of code to write it and 1 line of code to call it. Here, I have a summary of web development improvements in .NET 8. Unfortunately, it would take another hour just to talk about web development. That's not the goal of this talk, but you can see there's a lot of reasons to upgrade to the latest .NET. Also, native IoT. In .NET 7, we reduced application size on disk, and we improved start time. We also improved WPF and WinForms. We added new controls. One of them is WebView 2. That is a successor of web browser control. So it's available as a NuGet package. You can install it. You can get the benefits of web in your desktop application. We added another new control tasks dialog to WinForms, and that's like the topic where people get very surprised that we're still improving WinForms. We are. There is a team working on WinForms, but this control specifically, we got from our open source contributor, Konstantin Preiser. That was his suggestion, and he worked with our teams. He called to our API reviews from Germany, and basically thanks to him, we got a new control in WinForms. And that is like a message box on steroids. Very cool thing. We're working on high DPI issues. So with 4K monitors, WinForms didn't look so good on new screens. And you can see in .NET 5, everything was broken. In .NET 6, it looks much, much better. And we keep adding in this area. We added lots of accessibility improvements for WinForms specifically. We improved the way how assistive technologies such as narrator or test automation are working with the controls. Yeah, we added login to WinForms. Now you can set the ability of different login levels. And like those are minor things, but there's so many. For WPF, we introduced lots of tooling improvements, such as XAML Live Preview, quick actions, design time data. You can find it all on the internet in our docs, and there are demos showing it. So, like, there were just some highlights of new things in .NET. There's many, many more. Feel free to Google it. Feel free to ask me directly if you have some particular type of application and you wonder, would that be beneficial for you to upgrade it? You can reach out to me. The default answer is probably yes, unless there are some cases. But now let's talk about how to upgrade your applications. So, if your application is small and easy, you can jump to upgrade process directly. But if you're dealing with a large application, you probably want to plan your upgrade first. Especially, I've got the feedback from developers. Very often, they want some estimate from their managers of how much time will it take, how much effort, what exactly do we need to do. So specifically for that, we have a tool. It's called .NET Upgrade Planner. Let me show this tool to you. So, to get this tool, you can go to APIs of .NET. And here would be on the top right, .NET Upgrade Planner. Once I click it, okay. I'm not sure. Oh, okay, I downloaded it already, but you'll get the link to download it. I already have it on my machine. So, actually, let me start from very beginning. Let me call it. Once you launch .NET Upgrade Planner, the first screen you will see, open project, select files, select folder. If that's your first time, select files or select folder. If you have already launched it and you started .NET Upgrade Planner work, then you can save the project, and that's what open project means. So open project of .NET Upgrade Planner, not your .NET project. I'm going to select folder. I have some sample app here. So right now, what is happening? It gets all the .NET APIs from our server, and it looks through the dependencies, through usage of .NET APIs in your application. And it shows you, first, it shows you the graph of your app. And I find it very helpful. So I can click, I can navigate to this specific node, go back. On the top left, I can see all the assemblies. That's my assemblies and assemblies that I am referencing in my application. I can see current framework. I can set desired framework. So right now it's set to .NET 8, but I can do set desired framework and choose whatever I want. .NET Standard, for example. Then I can specify platform. So I can say, for example, I'm developing only for Windows, so do not, if I have some incompatibilities, like some APIs are not implemented on Android, iOS, that's okay, I'm building only for Windows. This is the portability score. So for some applications, it's 100%, for some it's less, and number of problems. And I can, to analyze, first thing that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna remove everything that is not my own code. Because for the NuGets, that's probably a newer version of NuGet that I can go ahead and download, and then I will be compatible. Of course, something that you need to check, but most likely. So I'm going to remove everything except my eShop 3 projects. And now I can see issues and warnings specifically for my project. Let me know if you cannot see. I can probably zoom in. But here I have API is not available on all platforms. So that's something that if I'm building just for Windows, that's probably fine. Remoting not available on .NET Core, unresolved reference, and so on. There is also a way of exporting those results, sharing it with your coworkers, with your management. So yeah, going back to our slide deck. Awesome. All right. Once you assessed how much work it's going to be or what exactly you need to change, you can move to migrating your application specifically. And for that, we have another tool that is called .NET Upgrade Assistant. So it supports upgrades from .NET Framework, from .NET Core, and from earlier versions of .NET 5, 6, 7, 8 to current long-term support, short standard term support, and preview. It supports various types of .NET applications. We try to build it for basically everything that has implementation in the latest .NET. We supported it for Upgrade Assistant. And it has 2 flavors. There is VS extension, and also there is CLI tool, depending on what you prefer to use. To get more information about it, you can go to aka.ms, .NET UA, .NET Upgrade Assistant. And let me show you the site first. So this is the website you will see if you get through that link. There is a short video on how to use Visual Studio Extension. There is instructions on CLI tool and more information. And with that, let's go to Visual Studio and I show you Upgrade Assistant in action. So, for example, this is a WinForms short demo application. Right now, it's targeting .NET Framework 4.8. I'm going to upgrade it to the latest .NET with Upgrade Assistant. Upgrade Assistant, here I'll show you how to use Visual Studio Extension. First, to install it, you search for .NET Upgrade Assistant, this guy. I already have it on my machine. So once you get it on your machine, right-click on your project file in Solution Explorer, you will see this option, Upgrade. And once I click on it, it will start Upgrade Assistant. The first option, and this Upgrade Assistant analyzes your application. It shows you only the steps that are available for your app. So if you see something different, that means that for your specific app, those steps don't make sense. 2 options here. First is upgrade project features and upgrade project to newer .NET version. I'll show you .NET version, and at the end of this presentation, I'll show you how you can upgrade your features. So there are 2 options for desktop applications for WinForms and WPF, upgrading project in place and side by side. In place, Upgrade Assistant is going to just take my app and move it to the latest .NET. Side by side, it will leave my application as is. It will create a copy and upgrade the copy. Depends on what you prefer. I'm risky like that. I'm going to do in place. Now, options, what I want to upgrade to. As I mentioned, there are 3 options First is long-term support. Currently it's .NET 6. In November, it's going to be .NET 8. Then it's standard term support, currently .NET 7. And there's an option to upgrade to the latest preview. Depending on what your application is targeting, it will offer only upgrade forward. So you cannot upgrade from .NET 8 to .NET 6. But if you're on .NET 8 Preview 1, it will let you upgrade to the latest preview, Preview 6, Preview 7. So I'm going to use .NET 8. Here on this tab, I can select or unselect the components that I want to upgrade. By default, Upgrade Assistant will suggest me what is needed. In my case, it's everything. I'm going to leave it as is and click Upgrade Selection. While it's working, have any of you guys used Upgrade Assistant already? Raise a hand if you have. Oh, nice, one hand. Awesome. Did it work for you? Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, for me, it worked. Surprise, surprise. And here you can see, let me zoom here. So there's some solid green checkboxes. That means that Upgrade Assistant modified this file. There is unfilled green checkbox, means that my file was compatible as is. Upgrade Assistant did nothing, but everything is good. There's also some warnings. For warning, I'm going to open it and read what it says. And it says default font in WinForms has been changed from this one, from that one to this one. In order to change the default font, use APIs. So now as I upgraded my application, my default font is different. If my UI was specifically designed for previous font, I can do that. I can click Learn More and go ahead and read how I can set the default font for all applications everywhere to the previous one. Other than that, everything succeeded. I can also see detailed description of what was happening in the output folder that logs every step. And now if I go to properties, I can see that my application is targeting .NET 8. So in my case, it took me almost no time to upgrade from .NET Framework to .NET 8. For desktop applications, WinForms, WPF, for class libraries, for console applications, it usually should be very straightforward. Let me. There still might be breaking changes, and we log all those breaking changes, so you can go ahead and read about them at docs.microsoft.com/.net core compatibility. And then there is a breaking changes for every version of .NET. But the hardest part in the upgrade would be moving from .NET Framework to .NET Core family. Once you got on .NET Core or any .NET, then upgrade should be easy, and we do not expect your application to be broken. It should be very fast and straightforward. All right, now we talked about WinForms, WPF, exactly same, very easy, should just work. About libraries, when you're upgrading libraries, what should you target? As I mentioned before when I was talking about .NET Standard, if your applications, if you're using only .NET 6, 7, 8, you do not need .NET Standard. You can just upgrade your library to .NET, same version, 6, 7, 8. But if your library used by both .NET Framework and .NET apps, then you want to use .NET Standard, and you want to use 2.0. We also have .NET Standard 2.1, but that one has some APIs that are not supported in .NET Framework. So for compatibility reasons, use .NET Standard 2.0. And if you want to benefit from both the reach of like .NET Framework and latest .NET, and you also want to get the latest features that are implemented only on latest .NET 6.7.8, then you can multi-target. You can read more on this blog post about .NET Standard and its future. And meanwhile, another question that I got asked is, once you upgraded to .NET Core or .NET 5, then you can very easily upgrade, just go in Visual Studio Properties, and then in Target Framework, in Combo Box, just choose different Target Framework. So the question is, should I still use Upgrade Assistant if I'm, for example, moving from .NET 5 to .NET 6, or not? What do you guys think? Well, I would recommend using Upgrade Assistant because we have implemented some fixes for breaking changes and some notifications like you saw for WinForms. So Upgrade Assistant will give you better experience. It will try to make your code compatible, not just change target framework attribute in your project file, but also modify your code to make it work. So use Upgrade Assistant. Now let's talk about upgrading web applications. First, again, to clarify, there's another confusion point that there's ASP.NET and ASP.NET Core. And sometimes when people are talking about latest .NET, such as .NET 6, they still say ASP.NET Core. Well, initial web framework was called ASP.NET, and then the new generation, we called it ASP.NET Core, and it still has that name. The ASP.NET that we are using for .NET 6, 7, and 8, it's still ASP.NET Core, same framework. So when we're talking about Core or .NET 5, 6, 7, 8, it's ASP.NET Core. If you hear that, don't be confused. It's just probably we will remove that core from ASP.NET eventually as well, but right now it is what it is. Now, for ASP.NET, the situation is slightly different. It requires usually significant code changes because there is a huge difference between .NET, ASP.NET, and ASP.NET Core. So there is new app startup model, configuration, and so on. And for this one, you can use Upgrade Assistant, but Upgrade Assistant does slightly different things. And usually, in experience of my users, when they're upgrading web applications, it takes them much longer time, more effort, and they prefer the different approach to upgrade. If for .NET, for desktop, class libraries, console applications, you could just run Upgrade Assistant and be done, maybe in a day. For web applications, sometimes it's weeks, sometimes it's months. So here we use the strangler fig pattern. And there is a thing, there is that strangler fig that grows around the tree, and eventually it covers the entire tree, and it kills the tree inside, and only the fig remains. The same way works the pattern. So it introduces the facade in front of legacy code, and we start creating a modern code that duplicates legacy functionality. Then, as we progress with our migration, legacy code reduces, modern code grows, and at the end, only modern code stays. Or, in other words, when we are looking at web application, there is external traffic, there's ASP.NET application and business logic. That's how my app looks like. Then, when I start upgrading, I put ASP.NET Core application as a facade. And I'm using YARP proxy to talk to my ASP.NET application. And there is also business logic. So external traffic goes to my core app. Then for everything that is not implemented, it goes to my old app. And for everything that is already implemented in core, it executes new core code. Eventually, I move my views, classes, everything to new code, and only new code is getting executed. There is nothing to be done for .NET Framework application, and then we can get rid of .NET Framework application. It's done with YARP. So YARP, it's yet another reverse proxy. It's customizable proxy functionality, supports ASP.NET Core 3.1 and later. It's available as NuGet package, and we use it for our applications as well. And another thing that was on this picture was adapters. So probably my business logic is using system.web. System.web does not exist in .NET Core family. So for that, we created system.web adapters, and they cover HTTP context, everything that is on the screen. It's available as a NuGet package. If you're using Upgrade Assistant, it will automatically use those adapters, so you don't need to worry about it. Everything will be done automatically for you. All right, let's go to Visual Studio again. And here I have my web application. Let me also make sure it is targeting .NET Framework 4.8. I'm gonna upgrade it to the latest .NET. So right-click, upgrade project to newer framework. So here, you might notice, before I had options side by side and in place. Here I have one option, side-by-side incremental. For web project, that's the way we suggest to use for upgrades, and that is the way that is using Strangler fig pattern that I was talking about. So I'm going to use that. Next question, if I already have started migration and I already created new .NET 6, 7, 8 project, I can specify existing project. In other case, I want Upgrade Assistant to create this new project for me. So I'm gonna call it Net 8. I probably done it before, so I already have that folder. All right, same question here, which .NET, .NET 8. So here, the first step is that YARP is creating a facade. So right now, my code will not be migrated. What is going to happen right now? I will get a new .NET 8 application here, right, next to my original app. And if you compare, it has basic .NET, like template files, but it does not have any of my controllers, models, nothing like that. So right now it's just empty. But the infrastructure is already working, so when I run it, this new .NET 8 application will run. It has no implementation for my any endpoints, so when I call my app, it will forward execution to the old .NET Framework app. And now I can start migrating my parts of the framework application piece by piece. The way I'm going to do it, same upgrade, down here. Okay, so here I have a little summary. In my project, I have 20 endpoints. They all are on .NET Framework, and nothing is on .NET yet. And I have options to upgrade controller, upgrade class, upgrade view. So I'm going to click upgrade controller. I will pick controllers, like any account controller. Click upgrade. Upgrade Assistant suggests me to upgrade everything that depends, that my controller depends on as well. So I'm going to click upgrade. And Upgrade Assistant is going to work on 53 files. So that way, a lot of asks from web developers we received about, like, I cannot just stop my application and work on upgrade, on modernization to the latest .NET, right? I need to maintain my app. I need to introduce features. There are people that are working on new functionality. So they wanted to do it in parallel, and that's exactly how this model works. So your application works seamlessly in production. It just when you migrate a new piece, it starts executing the new core .NET 5, 6, 7, 8. But for everything else, it uses .NET Framework, and it still should work. All right, something has happened here. And here's another great thing that I love to use is, first let's look at summary. Okay, so now I have 3 endpoints migrated and 17 left on the old .NET Framework. And in Endpoint Explorer, I can see what is implemented in my .NET 8 application, what is still, no, that's everything. My original app has all the endpoints. So whenever my application is getting called, like account log off, it's going to execute the new .NET 8 code. When it's called, when I call something that is not here, it will execute the .NET Framework. So just like that, one by one, you're moving your controllers, views, etc., until you have everything on the latest .NET. It is a more involved process, but people who did that said that they were very happy with the result. So hopefully you will be too. I mean, you definitely will be, but you will have to struggle through upgrades. All right, now let's talk about upgrading your mobile applications. Do any of you have Xamarin.Forms apps? Awesome, we have some hands. Yes, so for Xamarin.Forms, we have a new offering called .NET MAUI. Have you guys tried .NET MAUI already? Okay. Oh yeah, but we have different hands. Nice, nice. Yes, .NET MAUI, it's a new way of building mobile and desktop applications. So with one code, you can have your app running on Windows, macOS, iOS, and Android. And it's all unified .NET. You can build mobile, desktop, hybrid applications. It uses benefits of native APIs, native performance. There are reasons. So usually, I'm getting asked, why would I want to move from Xamarin to .NET MAUI? And the very big reason is because Xamarin is supported until May 2024, and then it's MAUI. So there is still some time to do your migration, but I would already start thinking or doing it. But also, that was a stick, now a carrot. There is lots of great things in MAUI, new things that we introduced since Xamarin. And there is unified.NET. You can take advantage of common innovations in project system, CLI experience, hot reload, latest C#. .NET MAUI supports multi-window because it was built for mobile and desktop. We made improvements to make it good experience for desktop. So multi-window is one of them. There's also, we support like right-click events, layouts. That is coming in .NET 8, so that's on my second slide. There's also rebuilt layouts, single project, one project for all applications. So now in Xamarin, you had your project iOS, Android, and so on and so on. Now you have one project, and specific things for platforms are in separate folders. You probably can, so many more things for the sake of saving the time. What's coming to .NET 8 in MAUI? We have improved, like we fixed lots and lots of issues because in the beginning, MAUI was like the prototype, then early times, and since then we made it way more stable, introduced .NET workloads, NuGet packages for previews. We made a better experience for desktop. In .NET 8, we added tooltips for every control, context menu, right-click events, and so on. Also, there is a way of building hybrid applications with Blazor and MAUI, and we added deep linking for Blazor hybrid, hybrid web view, so that's another option how you can build your apps. And it's smaller and faster apps with native IoT. As I said before, we introduced lots of improvements to native IoT APIs. All right, actually, let me very quickly show you. Basically, the experience for upgrading MAUI is very similar. And also, you can use Upgrade Assistant. And I have a MAUI app here. Let me see what it's targeting. Yeah. Okay, great. So right-click, upgrade. In place or side by side. .NET 8, very similar experience. Upgrade selection, it's gonna upgrade my project file. Then I'm gonna upgrade my Android, iOS. This is a slightly longer adventure, so probably to save some time, we can, okay, it's happening. Anyways, everything that you have seen before, and we just released a new version where you can, if you prefer manual upgrades, you can drag your files, your Xamarin.Forms files into MAUI project, and you will get a light bulb in the code editor suggesting to make it MAUI files. So make fixes to your files to make it compatible with MAUI. Right, the next topic, Azure functions. Does any of you work with Azure functions? Awesome. In that case, we're going to show that. So for that, I'm going to create a new Azure Functions project. And let me see. Azure Functions. So here, I'm going to choose .NET Framework V1. So that's the oldest version, Azure Functions V1, targeting .NET Framework. Again, let's make sure it does. .NET Framework 4.1 here. Right. So for Azure Functions, very similar experience, right-click upgrade, in place upgrade, choosing .NET, selecting, unselecting. I recommend to keep it all. And what is going to happen here, it will upgrade my target framework to .NET 8, but also it will upgrade Azure Functions from V1 or V2 or V3 to V4, the latest version. All right, so now let me look at the project file. Here you can see, I forgot to show you that before it was Azure Functions, but you can trust me, it was V1, and now it's V4. And also target framework got upgraded as well. Awesome. Right. So I'm going to show you also how to upgrade some features of my project. For that, let me create class library targeting .NET Framework. And that is an empty class library. But if I look at the project file here, unload, you can see that's the project file of completely empty, very basic class library. It's still lots and lots of text. In .NET Core and latest .NET, we have introduced a new format for project file that is called SDK style. So when you're upgrading to the latest .NET, your project file is automatically upgraded to the SDK style. And that was happening behind the scenes for all my demos. But we received feedback that some people prefer to just get that upgrade of the project file without changing .NET TFM. And for that, we created this feature, also edited to Upgrade Assistant. And that is that second option, upgrade project features. So right now, there's only one project feature, SDK style, but we're going to add more there. And if you have some suggestions or some urgent needs for your applications, what has to happen, please let us know. The best way to let us know is here in Visual Studio, send feedback, suggest a feature, and go ahead and create the ticket. We are reading through every ticket there, and that's how we prioritize our work. So if you create the feature and if some other people like it, that will be very high on our roadmap. Okay, convert to project file to SDK. The converters are running. That is very simple, very fast. But now when I look to my project file, instead of that huge XML, it's just a few lines of code. So that's another feature that you can upgrade for your project with Upgrade Assistant. Of course, I recommend to upgrade the entire thing to the latest .NET. But if you need just this change, that's how you can get it done. And because we're close on time, I'm going to leave a few minutes for questions. And just to summarize for you, you can upgrade your any applications. And here's the recommendation, what you should upgrade to for each type. So for WinForms and WPF, upgrade to .NET 6, 7, and 8 preview, where 8 will be long-term support, general availability in November. For UWP, you can upgrade to WinUI 3. You can also stay where you are, depending on what you prefer. For Xamarin.Forms, definitely recommending upgrading to .NET MAUI. You can upgrade your WCF applications to .NET 6.7 with core WCF. That's a NuGet package. It's our project that we created in Microsoft, with Microsoft engineers created it. For that one, right now, we don't have a support in Visual Studio extension. So you need to use CLI, older version. But if you go to docs, it will guide you through which version you need to install, how to upgrade. Everything is easy and straightforward. And that's something that is on our backlog. We're going to add it soon. Class libraries, .NET Standard or .NET 6, 7, or 8, or multi-target, ASP.NET to ASP.NET Core on .NET 6, 7, 8, and Azure Functions upgrade to the latest .NET and latest version v4. With that, any questions are very welcome. Yes? Web forms, that's a great question. No, unfortunately, web forms are not supported, and that's something that we've been looking at the feedback and thinking a lot about it. But as Microsoft, we consider it old tech, and we're keeping it the way it is. We're not moving it to latest.NET. That being said, there is an offering from some third-party company. They offer some upgrades, but that's not by Microsoft, and we don't have to do anything with that. But you can try it if you have a need to upgrade to latest.NET. But also, from talking to web forms developers, they usually are not very motivated to change their apps. They say, like, this is my app, it's just running in production, I'm not touching it, it's just the way it is, I'm not gonna do anything for that, and I'm building new applications with different stack. More questions? Yes? So that would be a better question for our Xamarin PMs, which is Mehdi Montequila and David Ortinau. as far as I know, but I might be slightly wrong about it, that we got some APIs in .NET, and the Xamarin Android, Xamarin iOS should stay. You can use them as is, but we're not going to add any new things there. And yeah, Xamarin.Forms, there is a straight path to .NET MAUI. Yes? Yeah. Which version were you? Okay, so the question, just to repeat in the Microsoft, in the microphone, mentioned that they looked at the upgrading base class library, right? The class library to the latest to .NET, but some features were not present there in .NET. So has then been updated or not? Try .NET 8. A lot of things are implemented in .NET 8. If you looked at .NET Core early versions, like .NET Core 1.0 was very tiny and had very, very little features. Then in .NET Core 2.0, 2.1, we added about 20,000 APIs. Then we kept adding. So the best way to try the latest .NET. And if something is not implemented, then most likely it's by design. So if it's web forms, let me actually have a slide for that. So unsupported features, app domains, remoting, web forms, everything. So if that's something in this list, it's not going to be implemented. But everything else should be there. Yes? Oh, that is another great question that I forgot to cover. So Visual Studio Extension is just for Visual Studio, but CLI is available for Mac as well. Yeah, more questions? Yes? Is .NET Upgrade Assistant have .NET versions, right? Is that the question? So no, but if you, it has all the latest versions, and if you don't have .NET version installed on your machine, it will tell you, you need to install it, and here's the link. So should be very easy. Yeah, more questions? All right, if that's it, thank you so much for your time.